Alright, what's happening, y'all? It's your boy Rico from StreetScores. I know it's late at night. Shouts out to my late night crew. But I have all of the Washington Commanders updates from like the last 36, 48 hours just about. We have Marcus Mariota preparing as a starter, but we even have some Jaden Daniels updates, and we're going to break down why I still feel like Jaden Daniels is going to end up playing against the Las Vegas Raiders this Sunday at 1 p.m. Also, we have to dive into all of our injury report stuff, like who didn't practice, because it's not just Jaden Daniels banged up. There's other guys as well. Cliff Kingsbury and Joe Wood Jr. spoke to the media during their press conferences before and after the practice that went down Thursday, September 18th. And Cliff Kingsbury even talked about why they aren't giving Bill as many carries as us fans want him to get. Also, we have like a whole John Bates versus Ben Simmons situation going on. Preston Smith made his practice debut, and he said a bunch of interesting things, basically comparing what the now Commanders feel like compared to the Redskins that he was a part of before he left for the Packers. We're going to dive into all of that and more. I even have a trivia question for you as well. At what West Coast University did five-time Washington Pro Bowl defensive end Gene Brito from 1951 to 53 and 58 through 58 play college football? I have no idea. All right, bet. Now I know. I'm going to tell y'all at the end of this video, so stay tuned for that. And before we dive into everything, make sure you still follow that like button, still follow the subscription button, still follow the bell next to that subscription button so you get notification each and every time I release an informative and opinionated video just like this one. Make sure you stay tuned to all of the content. Really appreciate y'all for supporting every video. Shouts out to my Watch to the End gang, man. I'm telling you, I'm about to get some shirts and some merch going for that one, bro. Shouts out to the Watch to the End gang, and shouts out to my late night crew as well. We might have to do whole separate shirts and everything just for those two separate movements, man. Shouts out to all of y'all. And without further ado, let's go dive into this video right now, man. Let's get it. Adam. All right, and just to let y'all know, at some point Friday, September 19th, later on, I'm recording this right now, it's 12:30 a.m. But at some point later on today, by the time a lot of y'all are watching this, maybe we've already gotten an update or whatever. But once we get an official update on Friday, whether Jaden Daniels is playing or not, of course, I'm going to do a full breakdown on that. I will let y'all know as soon as that comes out, probably at some point in the middle of the day. So stay tuned for that. But Dan Quinn did say that Jaden Daniels will have to practice at least once this week to play on Sunday. So we're going to see if Jaden Daniels practices on Friday later on today. And if he does or if he doesn't, I will have y'all updated on that. So be on the lookout for that. But for now, everything that went down basically towards the evening of September 17th and all throughout the day of September 18th. That's the end. That's towards the end of Wednesday and all throughout Thursday. I'm giving y'all all of the updates from that. So Marcus Mariota preparing as a starter and Jaden Daniels still not practicing. And here's just a couple of clips of, Marcus Mariota out there looking like quarterback one in their practice. Like he's practicing as the starting quarterback right now. They're preparing just in case if Marcus Mariota does have to go out there and start. He's getting all of the first team reps, which is interesting because he was not getting those earlier this offseason throughout training camp and stuff. Of course, he wasn't getting any reps because he was hurt. You know what I'm saying? He wasn't even getting second string reps. That was Sam Hartman getting the bulk of the second string reps a lot of this offseason. So Marcus Mariota, you know what I'm saying? He hasn't practiced a lot this offseason leading into this regular season. So now he's getting first team reps. And, again, they're preparing strategically just in case if Marcus Mariota has to go. And, of course, you want to give him as many reps as possible in practice because, again, not only has he not been getting quarterback one reps just in general because he's not quarterback one. Jaden Daniels is your franchise starting elite level quarterback. But this guy, again, hasn't been getting a lot of reps, period, the offseason, second string or anything, because he was out with injuries. So he needs to get as much practice time as possible throwing to guys like Terry McLaurin and Deebo Samuel right now leading up to this game. Even if he doesn't end up playing, just in case, we need to have him ready. And you have all of the quarterbacks there, but Jaden Daniels is working inside the facility for treatment, so he's not going through the same practice stuff as everybody else, but he is out there. And just speaking of Mariota throwing to Deebo Samuel and Terry McLaurin, here's 22 seconds of him throwing to those guys right here, provided by News 4 Sports. And shouts out to Mariota, man, because, hey, he's never thrown to Deebo Samuel before in his career, but he's thrown to Terry. He had some pretty good throws to Terry last year. I trust that he could step in. I feel like arguably the best backup quarterback in NFL. especially specifically for the Cliff Kingsbury offense and system that your quarterback has to run, but you also need to be able to make quick reads and be accurate. Marcus Mariota fills in all of those requirements, so I think we should be just fine regardless, but we'll see. I don't think the Raiders are good enough to beat us, whether it's Jaden or Marcus Mariota. But Adam Schefter even came out and announced at 1 p.m. for the second straight day, Jaden Daniels did not practice. And Cliff Kingsbury said that he didn't have an update on the status of Jaden Daniels specifically, but said that they have full confidence in Marcus Mariota. He also said that he feels like they have 2 starting caliber quarterbacks, which honestly they kind of do. We're going to talk about it later. Marcus Mariota can step in and play to a starting level quarterback level, honestly. And Cliff Kingsbury said that Jaden Daniels is just preparing mentally while Marcus Mariota is getting the reps physically. And I feel like that's the right way to go about this. Let Jaden Daniels heal 10 days in between the Packers and the Raiders game. Let him go through the reps mentally as far as what we're trying to do strategically against the Raiders to attack their weaknesses, expose their weaknesses and things like that. Take advantage of some of the downsides they have to their defense and stuff like that. He can go through the reps mentally. He could be a part of the meetings, and even though he hasn't practiced physically all week, he should at least be mentally ready, and we trust that, him physically, if he's healthy enough to play, he'll make up for all of that. And then Marcus, again, for the reasons I've already explained, with him missing a lot of the offseason, he needs as many reps physically as possible if he does end up having to play. Shouts out to DC Sports Dre. He brought up the fact that Com said that the team has been having to slow Jaden down, if anything, and protect him from himself because he's going hard to return. They're not going to force him to play if he's not ready, but you got to love Jaden's will to play. I love the fact that Jaden Daniels, if anything, you have to corral him, slow him down, and get him to stop. You never have to worry about Jaden Daniels' motivation in any way, shape, or form, his work ethic. You never have to ever even slightly doubt if Jaden Daniels wants to play. He doesn't care how much pain it is. He wants to go out there and play. Again, a Hail Mary game winner against the Bears with broken ribs, man. He wasn't even feeling like himself. He was less accurate in a lot of those games. He wasn't as mobile in a lot of those games. He still went out there and wanted to compete and play in every single one of those games. And again, if I'm Dan Quinn, I love that. If I'm Adam Peters, Cliff Kingsbury, I love that. That's one of the main reasons you drafted this guy. It's way better to have a quarterback that you have to slow down and tell him, hey man, chill, rather than a quarterback that's super nonchalant, not self-motivated, and you have to convince them to be more motivated. You got to get them, you have to encourage them to do things. Jaden Daniels, if anything, he wants to do too much, and you have to slow him down, especially when it comes to being hurt and wanting to get back out there. Also, Marcus Mariota told Jaden Daniels, quote, if you feel like you can do what you normally do, then go for it, with all means, unquote. Marcus Mariota says he's been in situations where you tough it out and it's not always the best move. So he's just saying from a veteran's point of view, like, hey man, I'll play if I have to, but honestly, bro, if you feel like you got it, go ahead, man. This franchise is rallying around you. I can step in and win some games for you if need be, but ultimately, man, it's all you, bro. And I love the fact that Marcus Mariota's not trying to step on his toes, not using this as an opportunity to finally get to start in the game again. He's like, bro, you are the chosen one. Do what you got to do, bro. I'm telling you as advice that sometimes forcing it is not good, but if you feel like you got it, go ahead, man. Also, Marcus Mariota said, quote, always try to approach it like I'm going to play as far as practice goes. That way, if the scenario happens or I'm given the opportunity to play, nothing changes for me on a week-to-week basis. So my routine stays the same, and I think it just kind of creates that normal procedure for me, unquote. And I love that mentality. I love that level of preparation. He's basically saying that even without Jaden Daniels hurt, even Jaden Daniels 100% healthy, Marcus Mariota conducts himself throughout practice, throughout team meetings and stuff like that, as if he's a starting quarterback, so that he's already mentally in the realm just in case he has to be the starting quarterback. It's not like this week feels very different from the previous weeks, basically. I mean, of course, now with Jaden Daniels not practicing, he's getting a lot of starting reps. He's out there with the starting defensive line. He's out there with Terry and Debo more often than he typically is. But outside of that, this is different week, same process. Also, quote, what's been nice is we've been able to kind of keep things very similar regardless of who's playing at the position during the season. And if it comes down to it, Cliff Kingsbury will ask what things I like, what I don't like, and then we'll just roll, unquote. I like that quote because that shows that Cliff Kingsbury is willing to, take some feedback from the quarterbacks that have to go out there and run his system. But also, it also shows that he doesn't just do that for Jaden Daniels. He trusts Marcus Mariota with that same level of transparency, of debate back and forth and stuff like that. Like I'm going to let you control contribute to the offense that we run. I'm not just an offensive coordinator telling you 100% what you need to be doing, what you should do, what you should not do, and stuff like that. It's a collaborative effort, not only just with the star quarterback, the franchise starting quarterback, but even the backup quarterback. Cliff Kingsbury is showing a lot of trust in Marcus Mariota to conduct the offense and the preparation leading into a game the same way with Marcus Mariota as he does with Jaden Daniels. And speaking of Marcus Mariota and why you should be able to trust him, even if Jaden Daniels can't play against the Raiders, Marcus Mariota can step up and play well. Shouts out to Mark Phillips for bringing up the fact that Marcus Mariota played about 5 quarters of football in 2024. He went 34 of 44 for 364 passing yards and 4 passing touchdowns, no interceptions, and he also ran it 18 times for 92 yards and another rushing touchdown as well. So that's 5 total touchdowns. That's 456 yards of total offense between the air and the ground, and again, no interceptions. So nearly 460 yards, 5 touchdowns total, and no interceptions is insane. Mark Phillips also said, I get that he isn't JD5, but I don't understand the gloom and doom some have having to relate to him having to play. And I agree, bro. I think we'll be just fine. It's not even just because the Raiders, you look at them as like a weaker opponent on the schedule. I just also trust Marcus Mariota. Now, again, going back to my real concern with Marcus Mariota is that he didn't play nor practice most of the offseason and none of the preseason. Shouts out to Nikki Javala for pointing out the fact that Marcus Mariota, who was dealing with the Achilles and tendonitis during training camp and preseason, said that he started to feel like himself in the past couple of weeks. So that's good news to hear, but that's still not super encouraging with all of the time that he missed. And then he even said, quote, it's one of those things with the tendonitis, you just kind of have to rest. And the team was willing to kind of let me do that throughout training camp. We do a great job of getting a bunch of walkthrough reps. So for me, from a mental standpoint, I felt like I was always engaged. And having played for the Raiders in 2020 through 2021, Mariota mentioned he certainly has noticed linebacker Devin White and defensive end Max Crosby flying around and being defensive leaders of the Raiders, whom the Commanders play this Sunday at Landover at 1 p.m. But his approach will not change this week. Just the kind of background story on what's going on with Marcus Mariota and all of that type of stuff. The fact that he missed so much time was his mentality going into the game, and even acknowledging some of the great defensive players that the Raiders have and his chemistry with those guys. So if he knows how to attack them, you know, if anybody knows how to attack them, it's probably him. And then also shouts out to Big Simple for being petty, but hey, he may be right. If Marcus Mariota plays in this game against the Raiders, Marcus Mariota will probably have a touchdown pass before Jalen Hurts does, which is insane. I have so many crazy Jalen Hurts stats as to why. I mean, boy, he is a super passenger princess to this team right now, man. But we're not going to dive into that right now. Also, shouts out the Commanders realm. He pointed out the fact and said, I think if Jaden weren't playing, we'd know by now. They're trying to keep the Raiders on edge at this point, which is the right thing to do. I kind of agree with that. I do feel like I'm on the side of caution. Like we talked about in the Commanders Kings earlier tonight, I said that I would personally not play Jaden Daniels if he's not 100%, but I still feel like he will end up playing, just to let you know. I wouldn't play him, me personally, because I feel like, most of all, because Marcus Mariota could still go out there and beat the Raiders as well, and I just don't think it's worth any long-term risk or injuries, making the injury worse or anything like that, potentially losing your star franchise quarterback for longer than just this day-to-day that he is right now. But again, I do, even with all of that said, and I would prefer to just go ahead and sit Jaden. I think he will play this Sunday, but we'll see, because again, I will have y'all updated on Friday what the official verdict is. At least we should know by then, because again, Dan Quinn said if he doesn't practice this week, he's not playing on Sunday. And Friday is the last available day for him to practice, but we'll see. But before we move on to the rest of this video, shouts out to Sleeper, man. Shouts out to them boys over there at Sleeper, man. Making football so engaging and fun, bro. I'm telling you, you watch the games differently when you have some fantasy stuff going on through Sleeper, bro. And with football back, you have a chance to 1,000 times your cash on daily fantasy football. Washington football has never been more exciting. I think we're going to bounce back, and all of that pessimism that we've had in the fan base after that Packers loss is going to be equally just as much optimism after this Raiders win. So even if Jaden Daniels doesn't play, if Marcus Mariota goes out there, I expect him to ball out as well. No matter which quarterback we go out there with, I'm expecting him to go out there and ball out and get this dub. I'm expecting Terry McLaurin to finally bounce back and finally have a good game, the first good game of the 2025 season, because this Raiders secondary, especially that cornerback group, pretty weak. And Deebo Samuel looking like our best offensive player. I'm expecting all of those guys, no matter who's at quarterback, and Terry and Deebo and Ja'Cory Cross-Kamara, now that he's officially the starting running back, to go out there and have some good games. You can pick on stats for these stars like touchdowns, passing yards, receiving yards, fantasy points, and for more, up to 1,000 times payout on Sleeper. If you're right on your picks, you can win big money and use promo code SCORE. You can even see that on the screen. That's SCORE. You'll get up to $100 match on your first deposit, or you could just even click the link at the top of the description in this video and every video I'm live streaming. I'm doing all season because, of course, I will be live streaming this upcoming Raiders game on Sunday. Game starts at 1. I'm live streaming at 12. And just in case if y'all didn't remember, it's not just the Commanders in the NFL, bro. You can have some fun with the NBA when it comes back, MLB, NHL, college football. My Georgia Dogs doing what they're doing. You know what I'm saying? The WNBA, everything, man. They're even trying to work on a way to, they're going to start getting into soccer and stuff like that. So terms and conditions apply. See Sleeper's terms of use for details. And there's, of course, a $1 minimum entry for users. But as you can already see on the screen right now, I'm already on the Sleeper app with my phone, man. And I'm ready to get into some stuff. And so, again, I try to tell y'all by Friday, so sometime later on today, this evening or whatever, I'm going to dive deep into my bag, do my research so we can try to replicate that week 1 success I had. The very first 8-leg my very first bet at all on Sleeper this season, I turned $10 into 800. I'm trying, and so my best attempt at that is going to be my 8-leg that I put out there for y'all on Friday. I'm going to try to get that done Friday before I even do a video. So by the time I do that video, I have that ready for y'all. And it's always better to get in on it sooner rather than later because the lines change. But for now, just for some quick fun, you know me, man, I like to go to the NFL popular duos, and I immediately looked for the one that had the best bang for your buck. So right now, the best bang for your buck is this 3.18, I'm assuming right here. So at first, before I even started recording the video, this was the best bang for your buck. But now that's gone. So now I'm going to go for the immediate, what's available right now, best bang for your buck. And they're saying if Justin Jefferson goes over 75.5 yards versus the Cincinnati Bengals' terrible defense, and if Jamar Chase goes for 73.5 yards or more against the terrible, the Vikings defense is good, but I don't know. This is a little tough. Because, neither of these guys are going to have their starting quarterbacks. It's about to be Carson Wentz for the Vikings versus Jake Browning, I believe, of the Bengals. But Jake Browning airs it out. The chart, I guess maybe we'll talk about in another video, but the chart that's super embarrassing for Jalen Hurts as far as why he's being the least effective and an impactful quarterback in the NFL by far right now. Jake Browning is on the other side of that chart where even though he doesn't have a lot of pass protection, he's willing to throw it down the field and make plays. So you may get this could probably hit, and so you could end up turning 10 into 31 if you're feeling frisky. If you feel like this is worth the risk, you could turn 20 into 63. You could turn 100 into 318. All you need is arguably the 2 best receivers in the NFL to have good games. They don't even have to get 100 yards. Over 75.5 for Justin Jefferson, over 73.5 for Jamar Chase. Of course, it gets tricky when both starting quarterbacks are out, but both of those quarterbacks are known to throw the ball around. They're not passive quarterbacks coming in to step in. They may throw some interceptions, but I wouldn't be surprised if Jamar Chase and Justin Jefferson, they may go crazy. I may go ahead and put 10 on this. I ain't gonna lie. But shouts out to Sleeper, man. Again, use promo code SCORE as you can see on the screen right now. Let's get back to this video. And now we have the first look at Preston Smith with his return, as you can see on the screen right now. This is him practicing, wearing number 52 and all of that, man. And Joe Witt Jr. again spoke to the media. I believe he spoke after practice. Cliff Kingsbury may have spoken before practice. It could have been vice versa. But either way, Witt said that Deatrich Wiles was a big part of the run game, and he knew how to really stress the pocket. So he was important as far as getting after the quarterback. But most importantly, setting the edge, stopping the run, not allowing guys to get to the outside on run plays, which is huge for our run defense. He said it's a tough loss, but other players will have a chance to step up. Sadly, though, we're going to talk about very soon how he was not talking about Preston Smith as one of those guys he expects to step up. Joe Witt Jr. does not seem to be very high on Preston Smith. We'll talk about that very soon. But to come back from that, Dan Quinn seems to be pretty high on him. When he spoke to the media back on, I believe it was Wednesday, he said he talked about his proven pass rush ability, talked about his long-standing admiration for his game. He said that he feels a need due to the injury. He's a great schematic fit, like I broke down in my previous video before this one. And he said that he hopes former teammate Ryan Kerrigan can help with a quick onboarding to go ahead and get him going. So where we need you immediately, within less than a week of signing you, we need you to go ahead and go out there and give us some, potentially some serious minutes against the Oakland Raiders. And And he also talked about how he's a perfect fit. Again, I did a full dive into that schematically in my past video. And then speaking of Ryan Kerrigan, I mean, look at them right here already taking pictures and stuff. I love this, man. I love this reunion. It's got to be weird for, you know, Ryan Kerrigan, ex-teammate, to now be his coach. You know, Ryan Kerrigan is technically like the outside linebackers coach slash pass rush specialist. So now he won't be helping Preston Smith on the field alongside him, but he will be helping him off the field, coaching him up to be prepared for what Preston Smith has to do on the field. And then Preston Smith smiled when asked about the changes since he was last in Washington, especially in the locker room and other stuff as well. He said, quote, "Man, they came a long way from when I was here, man. I like it. I like what they've done with the place," unquote. Shouts out to Preston Smith. But again, now to revisit Joe Wood Jr. No, we had some positive, fun parts about Preston Smith. Now here's the less so fun parts. Because Joe Wood Jr. does not seem to like Preston Smith very much right now, just to warn y'all. And I think it's all because we didn't draft this guy. He's just coming out of nowhere. He's basically just trying to lower expectations for everybody. I feel like he did it in a very blunt way. You know, he was kind of he seemed a little irritated when even talking about it in his press conference. But he sounds like he's very low on Preston Smith because of the fact that he just got here. He doesn't want to just sit here and act like some random guy we signed off the street is going to come in and save his defense. Maybe he took offense to that. He feels like he has a system set up and that Preston Smith maybe can be able to help, but he's not going to be like this savior and he's going to get all the credit. I don't know what it was. And either way, even though we're trying to hype up Preston Smith and the fact that he signed here and maybe he can come in and replace Dietrich Wise immediately, and even Dan Quinn hyped him up a little bit, saying that we were even looking into bringing in Preston Smith even before Dietrich Wise got hurt. But then juxtaposition to that, you have Joe Wood Jr. trying to hype up Javonte Jean-Baptiste, who was listed as a starter on the depth chart that just came out a couple of days ago that I broke down in my previous video. So I guess we'll see how much Preston Smith plays against the Raiders, but I guess from how Joe Wood Jr. is talking, right, you know, from his press conference yesterday, and he is the defensive coordinator, Preston Smith will not be playing much. I think he should, but I just don't think it's very likely. Now to move on to the injury report for the rest of the team. Well, first of all, a number of Commanders veterans got their usual Wednesdays off, vet rest days. So Von Miller, Zach Ertz, Laramie Tunsil, that's just always going to be a thing. Again, for those of y'all that don't like it, remember, Bobby Wagner and Zach Ertz, even at their ages, gave us a full 20 games last year. 20 games straight, all 20 games that we were available to play, including the playoffs. Both of those guys played in every single one of them. And these Wednesdays off are a big key to that. And that's cool with me, man. I'll take it. I'm not mad at it at all. Let's do it. Hey, perfectly fine with me. But now if we look at the injury report that officially came out after Thursday's practice, you see John Bates has not participated in practice yet. In the two practices we've had available on Wednesday and Thursday with the groin injuries, not looking good for him to potentially play again. We're going to talk about him a little later as well. Noah Brown, groin and knee injury, hasn't participated as well. Jaden Daniels has not participated in practice yet. Trey Amos dealing with that shoulder injury. Been limited all week. I think he'll be at least good enough to play against the Raiders, though, because he came back in that Packers game and still covered pretty well. You just would like for him to stop getting ran over. He's so far through his rookie premiere and his rookie career in the NFL, through 2 games of his entire career so far, since entering the NFL, this guy's been ran over in each of his 2 games. Brandon Coleman, limited then full, good to go with a shoulder injury. Jeremy McNichols, hamstring, limited then full, good to go. Even though I know a lot of y'all prefer Chris Rodriguez to get more carries anyway, and I kind of do as well. Colson Yankoff, hip injury. You know, he's going to potentially end up being active in this game with John Bates potentially not playing in this game. Limited then full, he should be good to go. And then Deebo Samuel had a personal reason to miss Thursday. Not sure if it's a good or a bad thing, but we just know he didn't practice, but nothing to worry about. He's on the injury report just because he didn't practice, but it's nothing injury related. He's going to be a full go against the Raiders, so don't worry about that one. Now going back to John Bates, again with a groin injury, he did work on the side field with the training staff, and people like the media were actually able to see him doing it, but he didn't participate with the actual team in any sort of practices because, again, he did not participate in actual practice. And John Bates performing lateral movements on the side field, then performing some tight end movements, but at slow speed, and he injured his groin versus the Packers. Shouts out to John Kahn for that update. And then Cliff Kingsbury, talking about the John Bates injury, said, quote, "He's a big part of what we do in the run game. We'll just have to be creative with the other players we have," unquote. And you're going to have to, because John Bates is the best blocking tight end in the NFL. You can't just look on the rest of this roster to find a replacement that's going to step up in his place, because you could argue there is no other tight end in the entire NFL that can step up and do what he does, exactly how he does it as far as the blocking stuff goes. So, of course, yes, Cliff Kingsbury is going to have to get creative. We assume that. But speaking of getting creative, What's that mean for Ben Sinnott? Second round pick. Hey, going into your second year, what's going on? Cliff Kingsbury said, quote, he's a guy who's versatile. I think he can play in line, but we see him more as an off the ball guy, unquote. So they don't even see him as a direct replacement for John Bates. They see, if anything, he has the potential to turn into like a Zach Ertz more so than a John Bates. We'll see, though. We need you to be more John Bates-like, especially, I mean, after you got Tress Way hurt because you couldn't block Abdul Carter on a punt. Just come on, Ben Sinnott, get it together, bro. Also, Quinn talked about replacing Bates' blocking as well back on Wednesday, and said that it wouldn't be in the exact same way, just plug and play. We talked about that. And it also doesn't seem like the staff is comfortable with Sinnott as a tight end too, but 12 personnel needed at times, especially with Max Crosby versus Josh Connolly. So even though the organization, I mean, mind you, he played 8 snaps on Thursday against the Packers, just to let you know. So even with John Bates hurt, it's not like he necessarily stepped up and played more snaps because of it. So this team has shown they're not very comfortable with him being a dependable blocker for us in the run game and the passing game. So what are we going to do as far as Josh Connolly being matched up against Max Crosby, bro? Is it going to have to be Colson Yonkov playing more and handling a lot of the blocking responsibilities? We'll see. And then lastly, before we move on from injuries, Cliff Kingsbury talked about the Noah Brown contingency plan. He said, quote, we've got some young guys that we like, and we are continuing to develop. So I like the group we have. You can't replace a guy like Noah with his experience, but I like the group, and I think they'll continue to get better, unquote. I ain't gonna lie. Even when Noah Brown was healthy in that Packers game, he dropped a lot of good passes from Jaden Daniels. Jaden Daniels was pretty off throughout that game, but some of the very few times that he looked like the Jaden Daniels that we know and love, I mean, insane passes that not a lot of quarterbacks in the NFL can even make, Noah Brown was there to drop them. So thanks. I mean, get well soon, but I don't think we're like necessarily missing much on the field. Now moving on to the running back room and explanations for what was going on with Ja'Cory Crosby-Merritt. As you can see on the screen right now in this clip uploaded by Sky Abraham, he even pointed out the fact that this Commanders running back room looks a lot different since the start of training camp. No Austin Eckler nor B-Rob. B-Rob traded, Austin Eckler out for season with an Achilles injury. Now Ja'Cory Crosby-Merritt is your starting running back, as according to the depth chart that was released a couple of days ago. Jeremy McNichols is your second string, your RB2, and Chris Rodriguez is your RB3, and then you even have Donovan Edwards. You went and signed Chase Edmonds. Like, it's a lot going on. This running back room looks entirely different. The only two people that are really the same, or I guess 2.5, 3, you can include Chris Rodriguez there, is just Ja'Cory, a.k.a. Bill, Jeremy McNichols, and Chris Rodriguez. That's it. Everything else about the running back room is different. All 6 guys, you know, it's just a completely different story right now. But speaking of Bill, because I know us as fans, we were upset with the fact that Ja'Cory Crosby-Merritt has been our best running back so far this season, especially as far as maximizing yards on a per carry basis. Even against the Packers, I pointed out the fact that every guy that had rushing yards against the Packers for the Commanders had 17 yards exactly. Jaden Daniels got his 17 yards in like 7 or 9 runs. Austin Eckler got his in 8. Ja'Cory got his in 4. Same amount of yards, way less carries. Like, come on, bro. He has to get the ball more. But Cliff Kingsbury said for Ja'Cory Crosby-Merritt, the challenge will be, quote, playing without the ball, unquote. He said that, quote, every time he's touched it, good things happen, unquote. But that pass protection or just running his routes properly is a big deal. And Kingsbury said that he's impressed by his work ethic, so maybe he's improving. But, hey, those are some notable points to make. Yes, Ja'Cory should improve in pass protection. He should improve his route running. But I don't care enough for y'all to not be giving him more carries. I don't care. You need to adjust something on your end to get this guy on the field more. If that's the case, he needs more carries no matter what. 4 carries is not enough. 10 week 1 was not enough, let alone the 4 that he got against the Packers. I just don't get it. I mean, even when you could see it even before the end results of the game, the stats to come out, eye test showed you he was our most explosive back in that game. Insane stuff. Shouts out to Burgundy Blog. He said fair and pretty normal. But if he's your best bet for yards on the ground, I think you got to get him in there and adapt your pass list. Like, whatever you got to do to get Ja'Cory on the field more, you adapt around him, not him adapt around you. Of course, it would be nice if he could develop to become a better pass protector sooner rather than later, a better route runner sooner rather than later. But I don't care what his deficiencies are. He needs to be on the field more often. Shouts out to Red Zone in the lab. My boy Deuce Red Zone over there. He brought up a great point and even showed this picture while saying it. Rookie running backs through 2 games. Picked 245th overall, Ja'Cory Crosby-Merritt has 14 rushes, 99 yards on 7.1 yards per carry and a touchdown. He has less rushes and more yards than 6th pick overall, Aston Genty, and 22nd pick overall, Omarion Hampton. And at the same time, he also has more yards Then pick 38, Travion Henderson. Pick 83, Caleb Johnson. Pick 104, Bayshul Tootin. And pick 105, Cam Scatterbo. And Quinshawn Junkins is not on this list because he hasn't played yet. But Ja'Cory Krosky-Merritt, who was the 245th pick in the draft, 7th round, has more rushing yards than all of these other running backs. All of them. AJ Harvey, anybody. I mean, Christian Junkins finally did play this past weekend for the first time or something like that. Or maybe the last two. I don't know. But either way, he only has 61. You see even DJ Giddens over there with 41. Dylan Sampson, 35. You know what I'm saying? Shouts out to Ollie Gordon, though. He got a touchdown for the Dolphins earlier, and I know that made a lot of people upset because it wasn't Devon A-Chain, betting wise and stuff like that. But of course, shouts out again, but most importantly, Ja'Cory is hooping out here. And then also moving on, Cliff Kingsbury talked about the relationship between Laramie Tunsil and right tackle Josh Connolly Jr. He said, quote, "It's been awesome to see JT really take Connolly under his wing. I know he took him to Auburn to work with him. That's not anything we asked him to do, and that's just the type of person he is," unquote. I didn't know that. So Laramie Tunsil took Josh Connolly to Auburn to work out together at some point in the offseason, I guess. That is fire, bro. So shouts out to that man, Josh Connolly, for doing Laramie Tunsil for doing everything that he can to kind of, take him under his wing and things like that. That's real, bro. That's real love, man. Shouts out to that man for that one. And also, speaking of Josh Connolly, Cliff Kingsbury said that Josh Connolly has been thrown into the fire to start the season, but he's pleased with how Connolly is progressing and believes he is growing in the right direction. And Josh Connolly was even interviewed in the locker room after, I think, yesterday's practice, and he talked about how he's appreciative of the pre-practice work that he and Laramie Tunsil are doing together. He said, quote, "There's too much to really even speak on," unquote. So even before every practice, they are out there early working together. So all of this, Laramie Tunsil got traded. It wasn't because of a lack of talent, it was because of his lack of leadership, and he's out here going above and beyond to take Josh Connolly under his wing. I mean, exemplary stuff, bro. I didn't know it was that crazy. I didn't know before every practice they're there early working on stuff before everybody else is there. I didn't know he took him to Auburn with him to work out and stuff like that, bro. That is so great to hear. That is beautiful stuff right there. Man, again, shouts out to Laramie Tunsil. And then also, Cliff Kingsbury talked about how hard it's going to be to replace Austin Eckler. He said, quote, "The run after the catch stuff is going to be the hardest part." Kingsbury said that Eckler was adept to making people miss in space, adding that the first guy never tackled him. I think Ja'Cory has a lot of that in this game as well, but we'll see. We will miss Austin Eckler, though. No denying that, but I think Ja'Cory's ready to step up if you give him more carries. And then also other updates and observations from the last 48 hours. Ben Standig talked about the fact that this was their first session with Joe Witt Jr. in a press conference since before the Giants game. And he had lengthy opening comments accordingly. He talked about week 1. Quote, "We came out and played the way we should. Kinlaw, violent all over the place, all of that type of stuff. Secondary did a good job of not letting the ball get over the top." Then he said week 2, like Quinn, Witt emphasized the lack of eye discipline, but he also pointed out the fact that Javon Kinlaw had another good game. So Javon Kinlaw has arguably been the best player on our entire defense through 2 weeks, but I tried to warn y'all that he would be great. But hopefully the rest of the defense catches up and learn to be more consistent and impactful like Javon Kinlaw. Also, Joe Witt Jr. talking about the Green Bay game, he said, quote, "We did not do a good job in the eye discipline category." Again, to reemphasize that they kept saying that over and over again. He said the Packers hit a big play to Tucker Kraft up the seam on a similar concept that the Giants ran, and the Commanders stopped it versus New York, but didn't stop it versus Green Bay. And that, if you actually go look at the All-22, that was Bobby Wagner that was supposed to pick him up on that big game right there. And then also, shouts out to Javon Kinlaw. He seems really like super duper motivated and ready for the Raiders on Sunday. Scott Abraham interviewed him and he talked about how bouncing back from the Packers loss, quote, "We're going to respond the right way. The energy is right. The energy is perfect. It's where it needs to be at," unquote. And I love to hear that, but at the same time, if you're saying that this week the energy is perfect, then what was the energy last week going into the Packers game? I feel like a lot of that has to do with being a road opponent on a Thursday night football game, so that's probably why we just did. I mean, it looked like we came out flat. We didn't look like we were as prepared. We didn't look like we were as energetic and as physical as we normally are. I'm hoping we can bounce back against the Raiders, and Javon Kinlaw is making it seem like we will. Now, also, before we go, just random updates, even outside of what went down in practice the past day and a half. It's been announced that the 2025 season tickets are officially sold out for the Commanders. So even with all of this pessimism going around after the Packers lost, 12,000 new season tickets were sold in 2025 alone, leading the NFL in growth, bro. Shouts out to Chris Bryant for pointing that out. Also, Jaden Daniels was featured on the latest Sports Illustrated cover. So even while banged up, even after what you would consider an off night versus the Packers, he's still one of the faces of the entire NFL. He's the face of Sports Illustrated this week and all of that. Shouts out to Resh Manuel because he brings up a good point too. This is really well done. What lovely Miss Jackson, Jaden Daniels' mother, has accomplished on her own and what she continues to do to set up Jaden to be in the best position to thrive, I think goes considerably unnoticed. I hope this article helps amplify her role and value. Stop judging how she handles her son and managing him and watching over him and stuff like that. She's doing a fantastic job, y'all. But yeah, man, that's the end of this video. Please get in the comment section. Let me know if you about everything discussed in the video. Please still follow that like button, still follow the subscription button, and still follow the bell next to that subscription button so you get notification each and every time I release an informative and opinionated video just like this one. Make sure you stay tuned to all of the content. Really appreciate y'all for supporting every video. Again, super shouts out to my Watch to the End gang. Of course, shouts out to my late night crew as well because I'm recording this. It's still 1:01 a.m. right now. And the answer to your trivia question, I would have never have known this on my own. You have the Loyola Marymount, then known as Loyola University. So there you go. Shouts out to a Redskins great, Gene Brito. I hope I'm pronouncing that correctly as well. But for those of y'all that somehow knew that without having to look it up or waiting for me to tell you, that's one of the most elite football knowledge type of pools you can get right there. So shouts out to any of y'all that do that. Again, shouts out to my Watch the End gang. Shouts out to my late night crew. Leave a like and a way out. And of course, let me know in the comment section how you feel about this whole Jaden Daniels and Marcus Mariota situation. Should Jaden Daniels play? Do you think he should just sit? Do you trust Marcus Mariota to go out there and win? How do you feel about Joe Wood Jr.'s comments on Preston Smith? I know I'm excited. Dan Quinn even seemed excited about Preston Smith, but Joe Wood Jr. kind of shut it down like, hey, this guy's new around here. Don't expect him to go out there and play a lot. This is my system. So like, it was kind of like that with his chest out. Let me know how you feel about that. Let me know how you feel about Cliff Kingsbury's excuse as to why they don't have Jacory out there more often and getting more carries. I don't like the excuse, but y'all let me know how y'all feel about that and everything else discussed in this video, especially what this offense is going to look like without John Bates. It does worry me a little bit. Let me know all of that. Leave a like on the way out. Appreciate y'all. I'm going to catch y'all later. I'm out.